the biggest story for us in years was the U.S. government actually acknowledging that they have been tracking UFOs, they have been getting video and film over the years, and making it public. So this is back in 2004 off the coast of San Diego. This was the Nimitz Battle Group, and what had happened was on this particular aircraft carrier, they had the F-18 Super Hornets, not unlike our CF-18s the Canadian government has. And what they were able to take was, this is their gun camera, and it's an object. They couldn't figure out what it was. It was buzzing their jets, and when it wanted to, it just took off. They had verification from the pilots. It was on CNN 2 days in a row. They had the pilot on the second day. It was on the front page of the Washington Post and the New York Times. So when you finally get that kind of verification, you know it's big. But again, why is the American government now, after 70 years of secrecy, coming clean and saying, hey, yeah, they're out there, we don't know what they are, but they are there, and we're going to acknowledge it. It reminds me of something that Kevin said, that according to his sources, 2021, yeah, is going to be full disclosure. So a lot of people are saying that this is partial disclosure, and they're going to keep doing little bits to try and acclimatize the population, so it's not one huge shock when a UFO lands on the White House lawn, etc. So this was amazing, and we credit Tom DeLonge and To the Stars Academy. They were the driving force to get this released. He started his group, and he hired, or I don't know if he hired, but he has a whole bunch of heavy hitters from the U.S. State Department, ex-defense people, and there it just sort of takes off, and it's gone. So we were hoping that there will be a lot more, and from our sources, our executive director in Los Angeles says next month apparently there's going to be another release of video similar to that. That craft reminded us of something that, actually I'm going to go full screen here, and so it looks a little better, and I got to start from the beginning, sorry. That's just me. I used to play football, I was a reporter, I did lots of studying in crop circles. Stonehenge, Area 51, but that's for a longer session when we have more time. This was in Calgary. This was taken with a cell phone. Michael O'Reilly took this. It looked like craft was going back and forth over the Bow River, if you know Calgary at all. It was about the size of a VW, and there was this the air was sort of oscillating around it, and it's going in and out of focus, almost like when you're looking down a highway in the middle of the summer and you see those heat waves. That's what's kind of going around this craft. He stopped a jogger. They both looked at it. He took a bunch of these photos. This is what Michael hired an artist to do a rendition, and that's what it looked like. Here's Michael himself. And Grant Cameron, if any of you have seen him or read his books, one of his greatest statements, I believe, is he says that you will only see a UFO if it wants you to see it. And he also believes that certain people are meant to see certain things and experience certain things. Michael has bought and sold lots of companies over the years. He's rich beyond rich. You know what he does now? Twice a year, he'll go to different countries all over the world. He builds orphanages and he builds wells and schools. And so we believe that for some reason he was meant to see this. So he joined MUFON. He became a field investigator. Then he got busy with his humanitarian stuff, and we understand. But he's still a member, and he comes to our meetings, and he wants to know the truth. This is again, a lot of countries are coming forward. This is the Chilean Air Force released this. Now, the actual craft is this black ball at the end. This trail, because this is infrared, is some kind of exhaust or heat signature. There's a video as well of this on YouTube, and it's pretty astounding that they went ahead and released this well before the Americans did. A lot of other countries have come forward: Peru, Mexico, China now, Russia, England. The Department of Defense there had released 10,000 pages of documents pertaining to UFOs and UFO reports. A lot of them were redacted. You can't read a lot of it, but at least they did it. The Americans were saying, no, we don't know anything about it until last December. What about Canada? Well, that's a picture of Victor Viggiani, if any of you have heard him or even seen him at conferences. Exactly, from Brantford. So he is sort of our disclosure warrior, one of our disclosure warriors. Grant Cameron's another one, Paul Hellyer, folks like that. And in this particular scene, which you can pull up on YouTube as well, Victor, through Freedom of Information Act, had gotten these reports, these NORAD reports of American and Canadian jets chasing UFOs. Now, the Americans got wind that he had these, and they threatened him that they would throw him in jail if he made them public. And this is Victor saying, and I dare the U.S. government. Exactly. So that was pretty amazing. When the Americans released their video in December, Victor went to the Canadian government and said, "What's your response to this? We want to know what Canada knows. We want to know what the Canadian government has that's flying over our country." And their response was this, which blew everybody away. They sent this back. It said, "While we understand your interest in the subject of UFOs, or you're interested in the subject of UFOs, we are not able to provide an interview as your request is outside the scope of our operations. The Canadian Armed Forces focuses on credible threats. We do not comment or facilitate interviews on speculative matters such as this." So they went ahead and put this together, or one person in the Department of Defense put this together, and they used a Billy Meyer photo, one of his old famous photos.
1971.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the Billy Meyer people should sue the Canadian government for copyright infringement, but to go to this effort and send it back to a world-renowned researcher is ridiculous. So you can imagine, Grant Cameron and Victor are plotting their next move to get them to apologize for that. So our Canadian government, this is the response that we get as citizens when the Americans have come out. England's come out, Russia, China, so many other countries. So that is really very disappointing, but we're after them. Some things about MUFON. We had a Hangar 1 2 seasons. A third season is in the works. We were on CNN on this Inside Man with Morgan Spurlock. Yes?
Can you find it on Gaia, the episodes?
Yes, or if you go on the History Channel. Yeah, History Channel. Just a quick brief history. The first known UFO sighting or flap was on Parliament Hill in 1919. It was so they didn't know what these lights in the skies were. They closed down Parliament. And that's the first documented one. Fast forward to 1967, Stefan Michalak. He's a prospector, and so what he would do he's a weekend prospector. So on the weekends he would go, and he's also a geologist, and he would pick away with an axe and a little pick, and he would look for gold deposits, silver deposits. Back in the 60s, if you came upon something like that, you could stake a claim, get the land from the government, and then sell it to a mining company and make millions. So that's what he would do on weekends. This craft, 2 crafts came down, one hovered, one landed. He went up to the one that landed, walked around it, and then as it took off, gas came out of one of these vents and burned him. And this is Stefan in the hospital bed. You can see where the gases came out. Here's his undershirt. It was burned. So people thought, well, maybe the maybe he was cheating on his wife, and this is a heck of a story, he's making up. But for the next month and a half, he lost a lot of hair. He had vomiting, diarrhea. He lost a lot of weight. He was dizzy. Couldn't eat. It was the classic signs of radiation poisoning. So we believe that was a true incident. And then a year later, Shag Harbor, October 4th. This is considered Canada's Roswell. A craft in trouble plunges in, crash lands into the harbor. The RCMP and the local fishermen jumped in their boats to go out to get this craft. It was floating in the harbor, had a dome on the top which was lighted. The light went out. It sank just before all the fishermen got there. That's Laurie Wickens. He was one of the people. He was very young at the time. He was like a teenager. He was in one of the boats. We went to the 50th anniversary of the Shag Harbor event this past October in Nova Scotia, and it was pretty amazing to hear these people. There was a Pan Am pilot that showed up, and he talked about how he was going over. He was heading to Ireland, and he saw these crafts, and he looked like one was crashing. So it was crazy that a pilot actually came back and said he had seen it as well. A couple good books on this. Shag Harbor, Dark Object by Don Ledger. There's Don there. The second book, Impact of Contact, was with Chris Stiles and Graham Sims. Chris, over here, he's coming to Alien Cosmic Expo. He's going to talk about it, and also he's got some new revelations, some new evidence have come forward. The greatest flap in Canadian history was between 1975 and 1976 in Carman, Manitoba, south of Winnipeg. This is where Grant Cameron got into the UFO game. He was a young kid, and he was a teenager, and he would drive down an hour and a half from Winnipeg with his buddies to watch this thing. It would come over the American border, come up to Carman, do a couple loops, and go back. Charlie Red Star. And this is the book here, or here's the book. It's fascinating. You should definitely, if you get a chance to read it. So the book finally ends up where Grant makes the it coincides with all of the UFOs that were buzzing the nuclear missile silos in the States. North Dakota, Wyoming, and so he makes the correlation there, which is pretty stunning. How it would buzz the silos, come across the Canadian border, turn around, and go back. And it's there is actual footage that the CBC got. So they have 8 seconds of footage, which is also on YouTube. This is an amazing photo. Vancouver Island, 1986. Hannah McRoberts and her family were vacationing in the summer. This photo was sent to NASA. They analyzed it, and they said it is a real object. So that's one of our best photos from over Canada. Hannah McRoberts. Fast forward to Montreal, the Place Bonaventure, Bonaventure Place Hotel. This object was estimated to be 600 feet across. It hovered over top of the hotel for 3 hours. These are actual photos of it. I went there last Easter with the family, and these people were lying in this outdoor pool on the top of the hotel, and they saw this thing. They all jumped out of the pool. They told the lifeguard. The lifeguard called the security. Security called the police. Francois Lepay, he was one of the officers who saw it, and has gone on the record as saying that he believes it was a real UFO. Nocturnal lights. Charles Lamoureux did a documentary of all of the UFOs he shoots in Vancouver. He's going to come also to our conference and show his documentary. This one here in Squamish, BC, by Rob Freeman. Again, it's on YouTube, but the rock in the back is called the Chief, and it's a famous rock where people free climb. And there's a UFO. It's actually an orb that comes down out of the sky just as soon as it gets dark, and sort of lodges itself about halfway up the Chief. And it's an amazing video. I ask everyone to go on YouTube and and Google Squamish orb. And that's where, again, there's 50 shades of gray. There's not black or white. There's orbs. There's spiritual. There's paranormal. It's all interrelated, and it all overlaps. This was Oshawa last summer. Mike Beverly was heading to the bank with his wife. There's his wife in the picture. They first saw the objects going north to south, going across out to Lake Ontario. And then when we came back from the bank, they saw them going in the same direction. We checked all the airports. None of these were on the flight pattern of any of the local airports, municipal airports, Ottawa, Toronto, nothing. I want you to remember this photo because there's another one coming up that's very similar. Porter Airlines had a near miss in the summer of 2016 coming into Toronto. 2 flight attendants had to go to the hospital. It was almost like a huge inner tube, a big, huge floating donut at 9,000 feet. We don't believe it was a floating inner tube. And then in May of 2016, there was a WestJet and a Air Canada coming into Ottawa had seen a UFO at 6,700 feet. Now, what we have learned from this, and they scrambled a couple of CF-18s for this particular incident, is pilots are now coming forward, but they're not saying UFO. They're saying the buzzword is drone. Because for the last few decades, if a pilot comes forward and says, hey, I saw this UFO, well, first of all, they'll say, okay, you're on medical leave. And you make a lot of money, but sorry, pal, you're off the flight deck. So what they're saying now is it's a drone. So now they feel free that they can say it, they can put in reports. So this is Mark Garneau. He was I believe our first Canadian in space up at the International Space Station. He's now the Minister of Transport. He came out and put all these new rules in because you see a lot of people have these drones and they fly at night and they have these really cool lights and everything. So drones can't fly at night. And they are limited to 90 meters. So that hopefully will take care of a lot of that. This to me is probably the most amazing Canadian sighting. This happened 4 years ago, Northern Ontario. They call it the dumbbell UFO. But a lot of people, I played football, and that's not a dumbbell. That's a barbell, right? Anyway, they call it the barbell UFO. But that's handheld ones are dumbbells. So this is hunter number 1. There's 3 hunters from the States, from Indiana. They were bear hunting. And this thing starts coming up. They're on a logging road. This thing starts coming up the valley. And you can imagine, and it's turning clockwise as it's coming up slowly. Hunter number 2 freaks out, grabs the rifle, and this is a rendition, and is going to shoot this object. Hunter number 1 says, no, don't. You don't even know what it is. So Hunter 2 and 3 are freaking out. Hunter number 1 is calm. They're looking at it. It's like a plasma that's around this craft. It almost looks like it's totally chrome. Without the blue plasma beam, this is what it looked like from underneath as it passed over top of them. So they have audio. They were trying to take video camera. The video would always shut off. Their phones would shut off. The only thing that didn't shut off was they had field radios. The Motorola field radios. And so afterwards, those didn't work. They were fried. And the reason why the cameras and the phones turned off is because when there are electrical overrides in those. And if there's too much electricity, instead of damaging it, the video camera will turn off. Your phone will shut off. So that's why those shut off. But they do have audio of the guys freaking out. This fellow, number 1, the first hunter, and again, it goes back to the old, what we were talking about earlier, certain people are meant to see certain things. This guy was a defense contractor for the U.S. Department of Defense. He was a private contractor. He's a scientist, and he works in this field. And it was just crazy that he was the one who saw this, but we believe he was meant to see it. So and he wouldn't tell us where it is, but he is going to come back next summer. He said, so we're ready. We've got our camping stuff ready. We're going to go up there with our bug spray. but we believe it was here. He kind of didn't tell us, but the ring of fire is where there's a huge chromite mine, and chromite is refined to make chromium. We don't know what the connection is there, but that is the area where this thing was seen. These are orbs over Queen's Park. The Bay of Fundy, also in 2016, during this lightning storm, there's an object that you can see right here. That was from a frame of the video, and you can see it also. It's leaving there. Once we enhanced it and analyzed it, it did look like a large solid object, which takes us into the next things that we're seeing over Canada, which are black triangles. There's rumors that there's a TR3B program, which is anti-gravitic, anti-gravity, and they can have these huge triangles. This is, again, an artist's rendition of usually what people see. We had a flap in 2014, August 8th, multiple sightings of a black triangle over Montreal, heading west. 3 days later in Burlington, it's tough to see this, but this is the actual photo, and this is the craft there. We did a sort of enhanced it, and that's what the witness said this is what it looked like. 2 days later in Fort Erie, two witnesses saw this. They were watching planes land at the Buffalo airport. This massive black triangle comes under the landing path and then cloaks itself. One of the fellows came to one of our meetings in Brantford and told his story. The other fellow doesn't want to talk to anybody about it. He's really freaked out. And it's very similar to 2 summers ago in Stouffville, just north of Toronto, another black triangle sighting where a fellow was out walking his dog, and this massive thing came over top of him. He could feel the heat, and his dog didn't freak out. His dog kind of looked up and said, hey, what the heck is that? A month later, the dog dies, and he's only 3 years old. Takes to the vet. The vet checks, does an autopsy or does whatever they do. All his organs were riddled with cancer. He said, I've never seen this, especially in a 3-year-old dog. So the man himself is fine, but his dog, died of really strange circumstances. So we don't know if it affected the dog and not the human. But that was a very strange case. But again, it was a black triangle. Alien Cosmic Expo, a lot of you folks, that's where I met Campbell. I met Kevin 3 years ago.
2015.
Yeah, Kevin had sent in a sighting report. We called it the football case because it looked like a football going across the sky. And I'm at the MUFON table, and this guy comes up to me and goes, yeah, I sent in a report a little while ago. I wonder if you guys got it. And I'd been looking right at his report. He said, hey, that's my picture. That's the drawing, the sketch you made. And then I guess the year later, I met Hildy at one of our things. So it's a great, I didn't meet Judy, but hopefully you'll come this year. On the Friday is the Experiencer Day. So we're going to have, that's Stephen Greer. He was our speaker last year, or our keynote speaker, and that's our MUFON team he did a picture with. Linda Moulton Howe's going to be presenting. Richard Dolan's coming back. So is Grant Cameron. He's amazing. And Kathleen Marden. So Kathleen runs the ERT, the Experiencer Research Team, internationally. She's going to come up from Florida, and she's going to run our Experiencer Day. Leslie Mitchell-Clark is going to be our MC for that day. She's going to help and also do her presentation. And other people are coming back, and we're going to do the same sort of thing here. It's going to be an open mic. There'll be no cameras, no photography. Just hopefully a nice environment for people to talk and share their stories and experiences. So now, how much time do I have? Great. So I got a couple of prizes. We're going to play a game. I need 2 volunteers. All right, Daniel's one. Maybe get a lady, so it'll be like the battle of sexes. Anyone? It's going to be, you're going to have to guess. Yeah, I guess I should tell you what it is first. You have to guess if this is a UFO, or it's not. It's fact or fiction. Like I'm going to show you a photo, and you're going to say that's a UFO, or you're going to say no, that's not a UFO. That means that we've figured it out. So do you want to play? Yeah. Okay, here we go.
After the play, we have question answers then?
After the play. Okay, after good. We play. Okay, here we go. So, Daniel, you're up first. Midland, Ontario. Can you see that? Oh, look up there. UFO or... Oh, actually, we call it known or unknown. Unknown means a UFO, or known means we figured it out. Now, you're going to have a few of these, so, you know, you got to...
It's not a UFO.
It's not a UFO?
Yeah.
You are right. This was shot by a woman out her back window. These are the reflected lights of her microwave behind her. So when our Midland guy went over and saw her, he went like this. Hey, it's the same lights. Okay. Now, sorry, what was your name again? Tanny. Okay, Tanny. Edson, Alberta. This is on Highway 16 between Jasper and Edmonton. Unknown, which means it's UFO, or known, which means we figured it out. Unknown, you're correct. Good call, 1-1. All right. So this was almost like the Travis Walton fire in the sky incident. There was 3 guys coming back from working. They weren't loggers, but they were working construction in Jasper, and they were driving back to Edmonton. It was like a 3.5, 4-hour drive. 3 o'clock in the morning, this thing was following them. They stopped. It stopped. They kept going. It would go, and eventually they were so freaked out they drove as fast as they could to Edmonton. But that is a true one. Okay, Daniel, you're back up. Delhi, Ontario. We call this the Delhi Chandelier. That's its nickname. Known, which means we figured it out, or unknown, which means a UFO.
Taken inside or outside?
This was taken outside.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. It's not a reflection, yeah.
Known.
Yes, you are correct again. This is a classic lens flare. There's the light source, and it creates a flare in the camera. So it's 2-1. Here you go. Now, Tanny, this is for you to tie it up at 2-2. We only have 2 more after this. This was in Penetanguishene. You see the circle?
It's an order.
So is this an unknown, which is it's something we don't know, or did we figure out what this is? And it's explainable. What do you think? No, that's the first incorrect. This is unknown. This man and wife came home 12 o'clock at night after going to dinner. Let the dog out the back door. Dog's freaking out. She walks out. This thing rises out of her backyard. She runs and grabs her phone, takes a picture as it goes over the house. So it did a circle around the house, circle around the neighborhood, and takes off over, I think it's Georgian Bay. So we went up there, checked out the backyard, couldn't see anything because we're looking for samples, we're looking for bushes that are burnt, etc. 2 days later, we get a very similar report from a woman down the street. She's looking out her window and saw something go around someone's backyard, around the neighborhood, and out. So that verified it, gave us verification. All right, Daniel. Kelowna, BC. Known or unknown?
Known.
You are correct, sir. That is a seagull. Okay, back up to you, Tanny. Last one. Last one. Here we go. Known or unknown? Down, 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 down. Known. You are correct. This fella faked us, tried to fake us. But we put it into Photoshop, and all of this metadata was gone. So that's one of the tools we use. So if something's manipulated, if a photo's been manipulated, then all of this metadata is going to be gone. So he said, "No, I haven't touched the photo at all. These are fairies that were flying around me." So we were able to prove him wrong. So the winner is Daniel, but you both win. Okay, here you go. Here's a MUFON t-shirt. There you go. You can wear that to Ace. We'll give you a discount. Ace, I call it Ace, Alien Cosmic Expo. So yeah, sure. I got time for a couple questions.
Thank you so much. This was
4 minutes.
This was an awesome presentation. Anybody has a question? Here's a microphone.
Dr. Stephen Greer says that that he is expecting actually a false flag staging of a false UFO invasion, which will give the military a chance to really do a lot of shooting. And how likely do you think that's to happen?
I don't know, but that scenario makes a lot of sense to a lot of people because Werner von Braun was a famous rocket scientist that the Americans grabbed in Operation Paperclip after the Second World War, and he headed up the American rocket and NASA. Yeah, absolutely. So what he said before his death is he said, "Listen, for the military-industrial complex, it's going to be they need a bad guy. First it's Germany. Next it's going to be it's Cold War. It's going to be communism. Next it's going to be terrorism." And you see what happened with 9/11. And they said the next one is going to be from outer space. The next threat is going to be aliens. And this is how the industrial military complex is going to keep the money coming in to work on their black projects, etc. And so this is what Greer's talking about. And with this release of the video on December 16th by the Pentagon of the UFO off San Diego, a lot of people are saying, why are they doing this after 70 years of secrecy? Well, because maybe they are conditioning the people to say, this is a threat and we don't know what it is. So we need more money in the defense coffers to work on it. So it makes a lot of sense that that theory. I don't know if I believe it right now. I still want to believe that there's still some good in some government somewhere, but maybe I'm naive. So. But yeah, that certainly could happen. That certainly could happen.
I do have some information to share. Some information to share about that. That is definitely an issue, and I was also told by my San Diego ET friends that it's a concern for them. And if a false flag does happen, that official first contact will be canceled. First of all, most star nations will leave. They will discommunicate from us, say goodbye to all technology sharing, say goodbye to trillions of dollars in interstellar trade, gone, and the planetary changes that are going to take place to the planet, because this planet is headed for another ice age. They're not going to stop it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't blame them. If you're gonna act like this, and Stanton Friedman calls the Earth just a bunch of tribal warring tribes. If you're on the outside looking in from outer space, going, okay, what's this planet about? And you come down, and you look, people are killing everybody, they're bombing they're polluting their planet. Would you want to get involved with this planet? So it's I could definitely see that as well. Hope it doesn't happen. But
anybody else? Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, Sue.
Hi. There's something going on with the military-industrial complex, as you're saying, as well as the spy industrial complex, the disinformation industrial complex, with all these. There's a group out there, and it's associated with the military-industrial complex, that is approximately 280 to 380 years ahead of what we have here, of what we've seen. It consists of confiscated and classified information that have been taken from scientists, scientists have been killed, murdered, and it keeps on happening. And one of the things they want to do is possibly stage a false flag. And extraterrestrials, like the real ones, they do not associate with the military-industrial complex. They do not give out information on weapons. They don't want anyone to get a type of weapon that they can use against other human beings and then use it on other life forms. They just don't do that. If a person uses their psychic abilities to gain information on how to create technology, then they can do so, but they don't get any help from the ETs. The ETs could give them clues on things, but thank you. They can give them clues on things, but they will not outright say, here you go. This is how you do it. They won't do that. They do not want to harm anything. There's this thing out there also that women are being taken and then they get to see these, like what they believe is their babies, and that there's they see soldiers and military with guns and that. There's also another secret program where they are abducting human beings and making them think that it's extraterrestrial abduction, but it is not.
When it's government, yeah.
Yes, it's the group that's 280 to 380 years ahead of time, because they do have technology. Real ET technology is different. It's not.
No, that's the big question with experiencers. A lot of them are real ETs they're dealing with, and then some of them are actually it's faked by dark, deep black projects. So with that, we absolutely that's happening.
Yes. And more real ETs are having connections and communications with groups that wish to communicate with them. Like if you wish to have an encounter, start off with a communication, and then have the encounter, and then you'll see things happening. But like ET chasers, it's like, why not just communicate first? Mentally talk to them. Go out in groups. Go out with groups so everybody's each other's witness. No one will be classified as, oh, this is a mass delusion. You're all crazy and this. No, you work with each other.
Well, that's what we were doing with Stephen Greer and his CE5 program. A lot of the MUFON folks we've joined. We signed up. We have the app on our phone, and this summer we're actually going to do some groups and try and get out of the city. And so it sounds like you were doing that well before Stephen Greer. But we want to be able to verify things, set up cameras, try and capture stuff. I mean, not only just with our eyes and our intuition, but we want to try and get some evidence as well. So we're pretty excited. We're going to give it a shot.
Yes, it's just sad that what's going on. That there's this group is also trying to cover up a lot of things. They do not want people really communicating with extraterrestrials, because then they will find out the truth. And the ones in the ultra big oligarchy, big chairs, will not be able to control everybody else. If we all have a communication and we communicate with the extraterrestrial, we will get the truth. And we will not be able to be manipulated again by the 0.0002%, which is controlling everything right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we need to get to a critical mass of population of the people believing in this, and then the government won't have the power over us.
Yeah.
So I agree with you.
Yeah, and these things are done, like even people who are in government, sometimes they can't help it either, because they're being threatened, they get scandalized, their families are threatened if they do not go along with this.
Yep.
So if someone says, well, we're going to do this to your children, they're going to comply. Not that they want to do it voluntarily, but they will comply. So there's pressures from all sides. And we've got to go above those pressures and have our experiences and see the truth. Not that that the extraterrestrials are violent. They're so advanced. They don't have to take over anyone's planet or anyone's resources. There are a billion other star systems out there with viable planets and viable resources, and there's nothing that are empty. They don't have to harm a single life form for it. They don't go from planet to planet and say, oh, goody, let's scare them, or let's take the resources. They don't need to do that. They can create and molecularly synthesize whatever type of energy form they need. So, they're coming to take a resource. They're not coming to take anyone's resources. Some of the things that people see out there could be the covert ops things, and that in combination with the disinformation, they start thinking, oh, they're coming to get us. Oh, they're going to eat us. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. They're not going to do any of that. If anything, they like to see a society thrive in a non-violent way and become part of their community, which is great respect for life and each other. Respect the next as you would have him respect you. That's one of the top rules.
I'd have a question about how do you determine when you're looking at a case whether this is a man-made, is a real UFO, is a black ops project? How do you determine which is which?
Well, for a lot of the photos, our chief investigator is an expert, and he has a lot of software that he'll run through and usually pretty quickly figure out whether it's a real photo, and if it is a real photo, has it been tampered with? Is it a lens flare? Is it a glare from a light source? That sort of thing. With regards to the black triangles, for example, a lot of times we have to take the witness's word for it. So in effect, because we don't have a lot of equipment like military has, we're investigating the witness. And if the witness seems credible, then we choose whether we're going to believe them or not. We look for corroborative evidence, which means multiple witnesses from different sites, and we just cobble it all together, and then we'll come to a decision. Sometimes we fight amongst ourselves, and that's just the way it is. But that's how we do it. We get as much fact as we can, and then sometimes it's a best guess. But essentially, we are investigating the witness to see if they're credible.
So with regard to your next conference this year, 2018, you mentioned you now have a division of MUFON Canada focusing on experiences. What is the objective behind that?
It simply is to help people and give them an option of going further to find answers. And that's where Leslie Mitchell Clark comes in. We just signed up a fellow he's a therapist in Victoria, BC, so he's going to be working with folks out there. And we have one fellow just outside Kamloops, so he's going to be in the interior. And essentially it is to help people.
So for the experiences, since this is an experiences gathering, could you please leave us with information? How do we get in touch with you? And what kind of information are you looking for before you then get back to the experiencer? So that you
Sure.
know it's a serious thing. It's not
Yeah.
just somebody yanking your chain.
Well, exactly. So we ask you if you want to contact us, I'll leave everyone my card. You can go to MUFONCanada.com, fill out a little information thing there, and you just tell them, you say there, I'm an experiencer, and I want to talk to somebody about my experience. We will contact you and get you on the phone. And then if you want to do some hypnotic regression, for example, then we will get you in contact with Leslie. And that's as simple as it is. Just contact us. We'll reach back out to you.
Great, thank you. Any more questions from anybody here?
Well, I want to become a member of MUFON. Is that possible?
Yes, absolutely. All you have to do is go to MUFON.com, and it says join, and that's all you have to do. Now, it is again, it is in U.S. dollars. It's about $5 a month as it works out to, but that's because it's HQ is based in Los Angeles and started out American, but we're in 41 countries now, all through Europe, Russia, Asia. South America it's a huge hotbed. Peru and Chile, and Mexico has always been really hotbed for UFOs and experiences, and they've been very open. Mexico over the years with video and releasing film. So yeah, we're it's a really good organization, and again, we're here to help people.
Well, thank you so very much for coming out to speak to our group
Okay.
this evening. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It was great.